Tem gente que falou que sim, agora sim. Então eu tenho que me acostumar com tudo.
I have to get used to everything, and I think you have to do that too. Before everything, my name is Ana Ruiz.
Sou analista de soluções educacionais, analista sênior. E é legal falar que eu sou sênior, porque sênior não tem a ver com idade, né?
Because it doesn't have anything to do with age. So I'm a white woman. I measure 157, and my hair is a bit different. It's shaved on one side. I'm wearing a black outfit with a white jacket and some details in purple, and I'm wearing a sneaker. And so in this first panel, the president of the central bank said he was wearing a suit and was very different from all of the other person. And I'm not wearing that either. So we don't know anything by ourselves. So now I'm going to call to the stage Chico, Jaime, and Morris. So please, you can select whichever armchair you want.
E como a gente tem que falar de protagonismo.
We have to talk about female protagonists. I'm going to call somebody who is very special, Jackie.
Bom, gente.
Okay, so you're here in an environment where we have chairs, but they're not going to emulate people. I'm going to walk around. I will give the mic to whoever wants to speak, and I'll give you a tip. If you are in the back of the room, you can be missing what's happening in the front. So if you are in the back, you does not have a guide or the giveaway, sit in the front of the auditorium.
Porque aqui a gente precisa se movimentar. Porque se a gente não se movimenta,
who is the brave one to move about? So if we don't move, you don't talk about innovation and transformation. So first of all, I would like to introduce by talking about these dynamics, and I'm going to introduce the 3 points that make the connection for this panel. The first one, the anti-ageist. And ageism is the prejudice against age, any age. The WHO classifies the ageism in 3 dimensions. First is institutional. Sometimes the rules, the institutions practice the ageism, and unfortunately, they are part of society. The second one is interpersonal. You know, when you tell a person, you say, no, you look so good for your age, based on your age. I like confirmations. Has anybody said that before? Or when you say, oh, you are too old to do this. But the person can be in the 3rd dimension, which is the the self-managed dimension. Sometimes you perform that against yourself when you say, no, I think I'm too old to practice sports. Oh, this back pain, this is something that old people feel. Well, I can no longer do that or participate in an exchange program. And talking about an exchange program, to start talking about this in more depth, I'm going to talk to Chico, and you understand that he is 20, and I'm in my 30s. Some people have 40, another one is 50, and the other one is 60. So we have to say that ageism is in all stages of our life, including WHO brings the ageism since childhood. And to learn more about this, read our guide. Before that, Chico, thank you. You have the floor. Can I remain seated? My name is Chico Man. I'm 20 years old. Currently, well,
Estou morando na China
and I'm
atualmente.
living
Eu
in
estudo
China
marketing
right now. I studied marketing
Chinese University of
and
Hong Kong.
at the Chinese University in
melhor
Hong Kong,
faculdade
which
do
is
mundo.
the second university of the world, according to Westworld. Before that, I finished high school in the U.S. Between this period of studying there and applied to this university in China, I worked for 1 year at Brunel Partners, who is the allocation of alternative investment in Sao Paulo. When I arrived in China, I had a culture shock. What people say about China and the reality is completely different. Here in Brazil, people tend to have a negative opinion about China. When I got there, I saw it was different. Talked to my mom. I said, I see this discrepancy. And she said, why don't you start a profile in Instagram? I said, great, good idea. And I started an Instagram profile showing how things work in China. And I had a good engagement. Now I have 14,000 followers. It's small, but it's progressing. And in my school or my university invited me to be part of an event to act as a host. And it was an event for 5,000 people. It was very good for my city, Shenzhen. And several newspapers started inviting me. Now we have the Osaka Expo. I went there and I was in China Pavilion. And I had many opportunities. Now I'm on vacation here. I've just finished my first year in college, and I had the opportunity to come here to talk about this really cool topic. I would like to talk about ageism and talking about my father who encouraged me to go to China. He's 52. You would assume that a 52-year-old, but he was educated in the 70s, 80s, would have the impression of China as being a dirty, a communist, and poor country. But in fact, he's a guy that at this age, he was a person who said, and keeps abreast of, say, we call him Google. Anything you ask him, he can talk about that topic for 30 minutes until he stops. He says, China is doing very well. You have to go there. And he convinced me to go to China. And this brought me some reflection, being an age that would limit, to think as a person in the 50s. So he thinks differently, and he made me think that the things you think make you think different from your age. This is not only limited to the mind and physical. He's 52 and he's more athletic than myself. He wakes up at 4 a.m. to paddle. A month ago, he did 500 kilometers competition. In contrast with my uncle, who is younger, and he is considered to be the brother of my grandfather. Your appearance talks more your life than your age. And now bringing this view of AI, in China, I have had the opportunity to learn a lot with a guy called Tomás Machado. He has been in China for over 20 years, and he has a consulting firm. And in the first contact, he said, Chico, how you make a presentation or for professional or school purpose? I said, I use Canva or PowerPoint. And I forgot to say, he's 59. Let's say he's 60. A 60-year-old guy was a person who introduced to me an app that you use that uses AI for your presentations in 2 or 3 minutes. This was fantastic. How can I see a person 3 times older than myself is teaching me things that, in theory, should be teaching him. So he made me think that my grandmother, she is Spanish, and after the pandemic, she started teaching 100% online. Sometimes we have to help her with the computer, but in my family, people use AI even if they are older and breaking the paradigm that there is an age for people to do things. And so I talked to this Thomas, and we have established a good relationship. And I told him, you are 60, but you're talking about plans within 10 or 15 years from now. And I said, you don't sound like a 60-year-old person. And this made us think about longevity. If you have a 60-year-old person at the end of the 19th century, the only thing he would do was to write a will. Now, the longevity was very short. Now, when a 70-year-old died today, you become very sad because you think, oh, this person will have a lot to be done. What we do today to include the senior citizens, not only benefit them, but benefit ourselves today in the future. Because in 2050, the people who are going to enjoy the benefits of what's done today are ourselves. Longevity is something that all of us luckily will be part of. So it's very important to have this mindset. I have always loved to talk to older people. I don't know if I say that I have, I have excellent relationships with my friends, grandparents. I don't stay usually with the young people, but I love to talk to the older people. And I've never had this prejudice say, oh, this guy is too old. I've always thought that they can add a lot and bring this to my course, thinking about that one of the economic principles is the exchange are always beneficial to both sides. It's wrong to say that a 20-year-old is like one who is 60. A 20-year-old will have qualities and weaknesses that are different from the ones who are 60. Instead of trying to equalize everyone or exclude one side, and according to the economic laws, is to bring the two people so that they can grow individually and with the company they are working for, with their purpose in life. So that's what I had to say. Thank you, Chico. Another question. Another question. What was innovation when you were born, in the year you were born, and we correlate that with the way we innovate, we create products and interact? Well, I think that was most innovative in 2005 when I was born. The most innovative thing in the decade I was born was the creation of the computer using your hand. And this, it's a palm top, and mine is here by myself, my cell phone. This is very disruptive, that has changed the whole world scenario, not only in the area of technology, but everywhere. Nowadays, you don't use cash. You pay everything with your watch, with Pix, so which is related to the iPhone. And that's it. And now bringing it to our days, the, the same way making internet common to everyone, to democratize here. For my generation is AI, to use AI for everything. So you ask AI, your dress code, what clothes you're going to wear. It's a good tool, but has to use with some caution. I've never used to find out, which clothes I should wear. But also in the decade or the year I was born, so we had www.com. Internet was created. So, and before giving to Morris, I would like to agree with your dynamics. Well, I know You haven't told us who you are, but feel free to, based on what Chico said, you can make comments. And before Boris bring his perspective of a specialist talking about longevity, and in the journey, so that everyone here will have, many years. Does anybody has any comment to talk about .com? It's a young person with a lot of wisdom. It breaks a lot of stereotypes. When you think of a 20-year-old, you think, oh, he doesn't know anything. There is also the ageism with the young people, and we have a concrete example that you cannot judge only based on age. And I also have several remarks, but I'm going to talk about my future comments. Okay, so in 2 words, seniority and maturity, depending on the age. Morris, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I will give my self-description. I'm a white man with short, brownish, grayish hair. I wear glasses. I have a grayish beard. I'm wearing dark blue jeans and a gray shirt. I'm 42 years old. I will be 43 this year. So I am a millennial, between millennial and X generation. And when I was born, the internet didn't exist exactly as a commercial tool. It was beginning to be used in the military, but the personal computers were beginning to be used. I remember I was a teenager when my father brought the first computer home, and it was a green, phosphorus, black and green screen. It was only DOS at the time, not Windows, and I was amazed by it. So from the beginning, I was always a nerd. I love technology. I graduated in software engineering. I love technology. I love AI. But today, I don't develop that kind of thing anymore, because today I'm CEO and founder of Maturi. I created Maturi in 2015 with a website with vacancies for over 50 people that need a job. And it was for more mature people, because vacancies for 50+ people is scarce, and we began to teach them entrepreneurship and other non-traditional positions, and we began to show how important those kinds of vacancies are for companies. Now, companies are more interested in that, but there are a lot of barriers still because of ageism and all the stereotypes. Just to go back, when I was 30-something years old, I decided to look at that. And I was inspired by my grandmother. You mentioned your grandmother. She worked until she was 82. She was always very active, very hardworking, and she worked until she was 82. She was very well because she liked working, and she only stopped because one day the place where she worked, she fell. She didn't break anything, but she hit her face, and it was a scare. Our cities are not prepared for the elderly, and she stopped to work from one moment to the other, that she did nothing at home. That's when her health began to deteriorate, because she was a very active person, and suddenly she was sitting down watching TV all the time. She developed Alzheimer's, and she died at 91. When the tech company that I just sold, and then I realized the world was aging in a very accelerated way, and people didn't talk about that. And then the situation with my grandmother touched me, and I began to talk to people, and I got to know a lot of people that suffered and got depressed because there were no opportunities, and the difficulty of continue to work or getting a job because they were older. people 50, 60 years old, not even retired, knew that age was a blockage. And so that's when I created a maturity to help older people to be able to work independently of how old they are. So we have a lot of education, a lot of training. We did a lot of studies and research to prove that age diversity brings innovation, brings good results, and we have a number of cases to give proof to this. There is an issue of diversity, but it's more than that. It's innovation. Diversity brings innovation, and the age diversity also does that. Having different generations working together in an integrated way helps. And if they aren't in an environment where they can talk without having the generational shock, so we need to, it doesn't work. We need to have leadership supporting our human resources helping, because we have a culture that is ageist, especially in the workplace, but people are aging and we're having less children, and companies are having difficulty to hold the younger generation. So this is also a strategy for the future of the organization, to have the 50+ inclusion, because the workforce is going to get older and older. By 2040, according to a study, 57% of the workforce will be more than 45 years old. So if you only focus on the younger people, soon it will be very difficult to survive, both regarding consumers and workforce, because the silver generation, which is 50+ people, is getting bigger and bigger. So not only hiring 50+ people, but training your workers about this subject is important, because entrepreneurship and the employment market is growing, and they need to learn about AI. Sometimes they are afraid. They say, oh, AI is not for me. They are scared. And we show them that no, on the other hand, when you have the resources and experience, AI is an advantage. You can ask questions better. You can analyze the answers better. And this helps with innovation and the exchange with the younger generation. So people have been very interested, and we have been bringing this to people, and this has been generating innovation and putting together with the AI and the interaction, intergenerational interaction, have been bringing financial results. So it's not a threat, it's an opportunity. So the AI is a threat, or it generates opportunity? It generates opportunity. It's only a threat to those who think that that's not for them. So as we break these barriers, we bring opportunities, because AI needs people from all ages, because AI learns with humans, with content that we generate, and AI opens doors. Not just AI, but technology is not a barrier, is an ally. It opens doors. All the hiring process is done through AI. So if we cannot see as a threat, if it's well done, if you have multifunctional teams working and training AI, it will be inclusive. And when you know how to use it, you can take advantage of all the opportunities that AI can offer, be it for myself or for my company. When I listen to Chico and Morris, something that an important point that stands out to me is the importance of allies. Morris just mentioned his concern about the 50+ people when he was 30. He talked about Chico talked about his interaction of him as his age talking with older people. So also that interaction is important. I have a question for you as a specialist. Considering all the 50+ people that you talk to, what's the biggest challenge that they face to get into the market and getting jobs? And what's the difficulty from the companies to accept these people? You asked Morris, but it's the perfect hook for Jackie. I'll let Jackie talk.
Você quer...
Jaque, who are you? Let's begin. Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here with this wonderful panel and to launch this third edition of Words That Change. That is very, very important. I'm Jaqueline Busnello. I am responsible for the diversity, care, and inclusion for Bradesco Bank, and also coordinated for a consulting group of diversity in FEBRABAN. And when we begin to talk about some event, and we start doing our self-description, and now which is a accessibility resource for visually impaired people. So we are assisting those people. I'm a white woman with curly hair just below my shoulders. I have brown hair. I wear glasses, and I'm wearing a dress and a jacket, a black jacket, and a black and white scarf around my neck. Well, when we talk about the multi-generational challenge, this is a great opportunity for companies. As Maurice mentioned, we have 4 to 5 generations in companies today working together, and that is, in fact, a golden opportunity, because we believe that diversity opens opportunity for innovation. And we have different perspectives, different experiences. So having all these generations working together in an integrated way, as Maurice mentioned, that Chico also presented, is in fact an important added value. And I think that when we talk about the challenges for organizations and how they can intentionally break the barriers and obstacles and biases, we go through this valorization of multi-generation. And I'm going to talk about cases that we have in our bank. In Bradesco, we have longevity, multi-generation as strategic pillars. When we talk about inclusion and diversity, we recently reviewed our strategy, and we have 5 pillars, and one of them is this. And like this, we have this discussion in all levels of the organization, not in only human resources, but in business, marketing, advertising, and so that we can have and address all the issues for all ages. We want people that work with us, that consume our products and services, see themselves in our bank and what we offer. Also, it's about intentionally creating environments, and then we're talking about training, literacy, and initiatives like this that all companies can use to encourage conversation, talking about biases, ageism, in a way that we can create an environment where people understand how important, especially about, also including paying attention on how they communicate. It's also about having space where you can discuss this kind of thing. Something that is interesting in our bank, we have a group of intergenerational affinity where you can vibrate, where you can be within a business space, in the corporate space, coordinated by our colleague Luis Cinzento, and he began to grow. The organization embraced this group as part of the institution and in its governance, and is almost 1,000 members, a space where they can discuss things, talk about challenges, suggest solutions, and this all goes through the idea of creating a safe space.
We can talk about process review when we talk about the landmarks in the life cycle of an employee, from the selection, the development programs, promotions, until the closing of the cycle. It's important to be alert to that. For example, ages criteria. Makes no sense. We bring people based on their experience, and the removal of objective and subjective of the selective aspects of the selection process, since we are considering the experience in all aspects. And it means, we are considering people, for the leadership positions. And this review is very important, especially the way we say, the way we communicate based on the hiring process, how we communicate inside and outside people, and putting image of the 50 plus people in a participative way, being part of the company and contributing towards the proposal of that communication. And finally, I think that people development is crucial. So Morris mentioned that, and also Chico, and you said people are different. 50-year-old and 20-year-old have different experiences, but they may have, some different markers. But it's important to understand that, and they should be accessible to everyone, be it for leadership or soft skills. And when it's the case, we can make some tweaks. For example, we have inside Bradesco is the Unibrate, the corporate university that has a portal. We have a vocation to talk about money, financial education. We have some primes of financial education geared to the young audience of 50 plus, recognizing that they have different specificities that should be taken into account. And within development, we have this intergenerational space, how we learn from each other. Different generations, different intergenerations, mentorships or reverse mentorships. It's a way of proposing these spaces. Everything helps the company to have an environment where each person will feel included and valued, and the person can do his best irrespective of their age. So this is lifelong learning, the continuous learning. It's not only for the young people. We have research that say that as of an age, some people are no longer invited to participate in training process, and these people start being outdated. It has more to do what the person does than the age. And if you have an 18-year-old who doesn't want to do anything, just have fun, and this person will be very hard for her to get a job. And a 60-year-old, and yesterday I watched a video of a 65-year-old who had just graduated from a nursing course. He started when he was 61, and he suffered a lot of prejudice. People saying that they would have to carry him. He would be the first one to give up. He was able to complete his college education. It shows that people decide whether they will be apt or not to do a few things. And we have to police ourselves. And for example, I have a bias of not having, for example, an older person in an agile team when we talk about tech development. And we have heard many people telling each other or to myself, I was born in the 70s. I'm 52 years old. And people ask me, don't you think you should be retiring? I don't think so. You should retire when you feel you want to change your psyche or invest in other areas. So communication is a place where we can have inclusion if we pay attention to how we are expressing ourselves and conducting our interactions. It's interesting now, based on everything that has been said so far, we talked a lot about the personal perspective. So the experience we had with our grandparents, our friends, and the individual and professional aspect, what we are doing today that will reflect on our career if we want it to be a lifelong career, and what we do as an institution. Jackie gave us good examples on how the companies are organizing themselves. We at FEBRABAN, the diversity group, we foster these type of actions. They are not isolated, but they are included in the financial market. Now, we don't know who is Jaime here at this. Okay, Jaime, tell us who you are and bring us, in your
uma longa experiência,
perspective based on a person who has a long experience. And okay, Jaime, can you give me some mentorship? Good morning, everyone. For those who cannot see me, I'm a black man. I'm 58. I'm dressed in black with a gray scarf and black sneakers with a detail in white. And it's a great pleasure to be here, invited by FEBRABAN. This year, I complete 50 years of work. I started working when I was 8. And I think there is a very important element when we talk about age and society, and also the social aspect. Now, coming from a very poor family from the outskirts, work started early on. When I think about 58, and I have worked for 50 years, you see, this was a long experience, but I had a generous career opportunity, and I can see myself in Chico's age, Boris, Jackie's, and Anna's age. And it's wonderful that each age has some high aspects. Last week I had an interesting experience. We talk about age, the use of AI. I work with the B3 team in a hackathon of entrepreneurship using AI. I saw very young people using AI to develop powerful solutions for complex problems. And what the most attracted my attention was an apprentice who was making a presentation of an AI initiative for an important topic identified as needing a solution. He was younger than my son, who is 18, and I was delighted to see that. And on the next day, I participated in the IBM exam forum on AI. And IBM CEO said that at IBM we have some working groups who use AI, and they tap into different possibilities. My assistant participates in one of these groups, and she's 50 years at IBM. This is the beauty of seeing older people, more mature, and young people. So a person who has 50 years of IBM should have at least 64 years old. So this year, the year we celebrate the 5 generations working together at organizations. We already people considering the apprentice and in the alpha generation. So we have a wide range of opportunities so that we can see different generations participating in the process and cooperating. And often we hear about stereotypes about different generations, especially 50 plus and the 20 minus that work with the ageism. And we built a lot of scenarios of generational conflict based on these stereotypes. And sometimes we miss the opportunity of building a dialogue among generations. And many companies are aware of that. Jackie talked about Bradesco, and they understand how we maximize the work of different generations together. So I'm going to give you an example of a company that's a client of the company I work for, and who has hired us to organize mutual intergenerational apprentice program, Stanley Morgan. That is how we bring together different generations, how we maximize all of these actions and integration. As Maurice said, the majority of the population in the professional market will be 40 or 50 plus, and we need to understand how we keep these professionals inside the organizations, and they receive and welcome the new generations to gain experience. I see I come from 32 years in a pharmaceutical industry. When I was 53, I was invited for an early retirement. So I have retired for some years. And during these years at FESA Group, I work as vice president of the inclusion cell, and I've been working in the academia for 24 years, and I teach at St. Paul's Business School. And in the third sector, I keep some time to work with institutions that work with different generations. I'm the advisor of Pactua, and I accelerate the career of Black people in leadership, and I work in the advisory board at the Capão Redondo. The majority of them are boys and Black boys to connect with their first job. I'm advisor of the Bung Foundation, the agribusiness area. We work in the productive area and the indigenous area, and I'm the director of BRH São Paulo. So my life as a retiree has been very exciting. There are many things I can do. I have no doubt that AI will be an additional revolution. Was the Barca and internet when you were born, Anna. And I would like to say that when I was born, the main innovation was the heart transplantation. This was very important. Okay, I didn't say mine. When I was born in 72. In 71, the microprocessor was created, and it changed forever the way we live, work, and interact in AI, smartphone. So it has made possible so that we were able to miniaturize the computer and the interpersonal and the digital revolution we are going through exponentially. It was a major innovation.
Qual foi a inovação?
So what was the innovation? What I mentioned was the PC that entered our homes. Until then was, the large computers, but based on MS-DOS, we started having personal access to computers inside the households. And I forgot to make my audio description. I have also curly hair, and I'm dark complexion. I'm wearing a gray wool jacket, a white shirt, gray pants, and with a black black shoes or sneakers with some white details. Does anyone here want to say what was the innovation of the year they were born in, or ask a question? Okay, whoever asks any question will get a stick. We are talking about human interactions. Now, does anybody have any question or any comment?
I can say that everybody is comfortable with their own age, what they're living at the moment, right? Okay, I understand that you left all in a reflective mood. So I'm going to try to be easy with that because nobody wants to ask. Oh, we have a question. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm Beatriz. My self-description is a 1.60 tall woman with brown curly hair, green eyes, and I'm wearing a red coat, black pants, boots, black boots, and overcoat that is blue. I recently was able to talk to Ana. I admire her a lot, and about this very subject. I'm 22 years old, and I study a lot generational conflicts, and I love this subject. And I was even doing a project, and I used a Maturi case about the baby boomer generation. And I think that today we have, at least in my point of view, when we talk about work and jobs, when we talk about different generations, I just found out that it's 5 generations in the workplace. We have a little bit of a tug of war, of kind of a war.
Como que eu posso falar? Desculpa. Muitas vezes
where many times we find ourselves not accepting where we can improve. That's for any age. For example, myself as a younger person, I will say, I'm too young, I'm connected to technology, why do I need to learn more? Just as an older person could think like that. I've lived enough, I lived a lot, I know a lot more than you, so I don't need to, you don't need to teach me. And we end up having this ego conflict. And I think that's the greatest block for learning. We put ourselves in a position of ignorance, like I don't need to learn anymore. And the greatest key to have a healthy environment when we talk about relationships with different ages is to put yourself in a position where you're willing to learn. We can learn with anyone, be it whoever it is. Be it with someone who's 16 years old, he's teaching me about AI, or someone who's 60 or 70 years old. I'm 22 years old, and I work mostly with people older than 40. So I'm always learning something new. And basically, that's it. It wasn't a question, but it's just a reflection on what everything that's been said. What's the turning point when you're working in a company or organization when about relationship? I think you made a very relevant point, a very important point, that within organizations we have tried not to have the conflict. Stop getting to that place. A place where you add instead of fight. It's so much better, and it goes through everything that is being discussed. How can we create these spaces where the position of literacy, the position of discussion, so that people can talk about and tell how they feel and see how other people feel. So it's a place of listening, a space of listening. And this makes things easier, and that makes it easier for you to be vulnerable and see value in what other people can teach. And when you are able to get to that space, as Jaime mentioned, the issue about mentorship, intergenerational mentorship, these discussions are wonderful places, especially for those younger professionals mentor the older professional, and in reality everybody's mentoring everyone, because everybody has something to teach, be it experience on experiences or being able to see the other person's experience. So in the point of view of organizations is to foster and create these spaces where people can connect. And going back to the reverse ageism, you say that you're already working. I have been working as well, some things in Brazil. And there's a lot of jokes with the interns. And there's a lot of memes when our company is composed by 6 people and 2 trainees. And putting the intern in the position of just being a placeholder, someone that gets in the way. And many times is the trainee that brings a new perspective, a new idea, different from everybody who's working in the company. So as we are entering in the workplace, and people, even younger people, they can contribute, and they are very important. And to reinforce what you just said, of creating a space for generational dialogue, and being sure that nobody's better than the next person. It's a complementing kind of situation, but this needs to happen naturally. It won't happen naturally. You need to have training and literacy, and bring this learning into the culture and bring it to practice. You need to put people together where there's respect, because then the exchange is very rich, and you begin to break all stereotypes in practice, and you start to create cases of success, and those can help to make people aware. And I think you said something that is very important, is the issue of constant learning. You work with older people and you learn with them, and I think when you create an environment where you can dialogue, even if it's not a formal mentorship situation, if you invite an older person to talk to you, and you ask questions, but tell me a little bit about your journey, your life, the amount of learning that you can get is immense. And we can practice that every day, and practice it every day, as you mentioned. And you have to do this, not thinking just about being employable as professionals who are present here, but with intention. If we have the intention of indeed listen to the other person, think about what we say and how we say, we put ourselves in a position of being here to rethink our lives, rethink our careers, and being open. Thank you, Bia, for speaking up, and this connects with what we're proposing and what we presented so far. We talk about a little bit of the guide. It's a work that began in the classroom, when we realized that some ways that people speak, instead of bringing people closer, they push people away, and they don't bring any learning. And we started to change that, especially with people like we have here, people with different ages that can contribute and teach. And as we are here, how we could break this bias and this distance, and also to provoke people to think about how and what they say, and how those words can hurt other people and ourselves. And within the chairs that you sat, whoever sat closer to us, you had access to the guide, anti-ageism guide that we brought to you, so you can know more, and the first guide for bias. The second guide that we created last year, and anti-racism, but they are available digitally, and we have a few here. Speak up if you would like one, and please access the digital version as well. And inside the package that you receive, there's a gift voucher. And this is very symbolic, because it's related to the movement that we want. You all have a cup next to you. Jackie, your cup is here. And this cup is an invitation invite someone to have their preferred drink, in my case, special coffee, and talk about that. Can I make one last reflection? I would like to say that differently from other prejudices, like, for example, homophobia, usually people who are homophobic aren't part of the community. Of course, there are exceptions, but generally people who are racist are not from that ethnicity. But who are the people who practice ageism? That's a reflection that is very important. In truth, we all do it in all ages. Even myself in China, I was in a situation where I had to go to the hospital, and I went to the hospital and I saw someone my age, and I looked at him and said, come on, how can someone my age be my doctor? And in the end, he was very good. He looked and saw the problem and said exactly what the problem was. And also someone who said in the beginning, the people who limit themselves, they think, oh, I'm 60 years old, why should I do this? I've already learned what I needed to learn. And this is the less thought, that don't think about ageism that other people practice and you have to fight against. It's something that begins with everybody and everyone's practice. It's transversal. It goes through everyone, independent of gender, race, and the younger generation need to embrace this cause, because if they don't fight ageism today, they will suffer later on. It's a cause for everyone, and I agree completely with what you said. Anyone has one last comment? I have a comment that when I was about 25 years old, I had the privilege and luck to hear a presentation by Rosa Ben Hoft as a career specialist. And back then, I was starting my first managerial position. I was so happy. And she said that when we begin very young in our career, when we reach around 40, we will kind of be depressed that we don't have anywhere to go because there's no position of president, a director for everyone. And I thought, oh my God, what will I do? And she said, there's no problem as long as you think about your next careers. Because of life expectancy today is around 75 years old, it's interesting to think, as Chico mentioned, we will go through all ages. If we're lucky, we go through all ages. So, and most people in the younger generation will reach about 100 years old. So we need to think about our current career, but we need to think about the next careers. Whatever age you are, think about the next career or next careers. It's a good reflection on age. And to complement to this, we need to continue being curious and humble, to always look for new things, because maybe what you do professionally in 10 years is something that you had absolutely no idea, and you do something completely different and you could never even think of. So if you have this movement of being humble, curious, and adapt to the new is extremely important. And digital literacy and it's something that is coming to everybody, and the older generation needs to be included. But the organizations also need to have the continuous literacy and inclusion environment, so that because everyone has a lot to add. And I would like to compliment that people all ages and all social classes, without a doubt, we have to be careful that this great revolution, for example, like AI, don't make the gap between classes wider. Thank you. Thank you to all of you who stayed with us all the time. The conversation will continue with us in our stand, but stay here. We will continue with our agenda. We will have a presentation, a panel. We will connect with what we just talked about, which is about learning. So have a good event. Thank you all for your presence.